Hello, everyone. My name is Caroline Zuba, and I'm here today to talk to you about what it is like to view life through a kaleidoscope, a strange yet picturesque and colorfully unique spectacle that the vast majority of people do not get to experience. From a young age, the correlations and symbolism of colors are ingrained into all of our minds. When we think of red, we imagine love and anger. Orange, the warmth of a fire, or the ferocity of a tiger. Yellow, the universal sign for sunshine and joy. Green, the lively renewal of nature and money. And of course, blue, sadness and tranquility. All of these connotations are learned by means of what psychology and biology like to call classical conditioning or associative learning. When one stimulus has a repetitive outcome, it induces a familiar reaction. For example, when a bullfighter enters the ring with a red cape, the bull knows to act aggressive and hostile because of that color. In complete contrast to associative learning, there's this innate, unlearned phenomenon known as synesthesia, classified under the subcategory of a psychological condition called grapheme. Grapheme is the arbitrary assignment of colors to words, letters, and numbers within the mind's eye. For example, the word Friday is a dark cobalt blue in my mind, and it will always stay that way. The first letter of most words determines the color of the word. For instance, W is orange, so most words beginning with W will be orange. All people who have grapheme will have different assigned colors to words, letters, and numbers. But the true indicator of someone with synesthesia is the consistency in word-to-number color identification. If you take an online test, they will assess your memory within a quick fashion in order to gauge recollection accuracy and thus a diagnosis. My favorite topic to consider when talking about this condition are the colors of color words. Fascinating enough, the color words do not express to their assigned meaning. So, the word red is purple, yellow is orange, blue is red, purple is pink, etc. There are a plethora of categories to synesthesia. To give you an idea, some people hear, smell, taste, or feel colors. The additional gist to these sensations is also the intertwining of them. Moreover, some people taste sounds, smell textures, or even hear tastes. I would definitely argue that there are several benefits to this colorful lens, some of which include an inexplicable imagination and insane memory. Much like the image above me, right here. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, there's another innate, biochemically triggered state of mind that some people experience, known as psychosis. This is when someone hears or sees things that are not actually there in reality. This is therefore deemed a mental illness, one of which that I have been diagnosed with and can shed some light on. And I'll tell you now, it is anything but glamorous. With psychosis, the lens isn't necessarily beautiful. In fact, it is dark, scary, chaotic, and unpredictable, much like this kaleidoscope right here. It is the fear of eyes constantly watching you. It is the paranoia that third-party entities are trying to control and talk to you through a radio inside of your brain. It is the sensation of millions of tiny insects suffocating you from the inside out, despite a crazed effort to shoo them away. Much like synesthesia, sensations and figments of the brain are tangible to the eyes, but not the hand. The lens, but not the hand. At the age of 15, I began experiencing hallucinations, and for a long time, I kept this a secret. There was always the fear at the front of my mind that people would think I was demented or insane. The anxiety of becoming an outcast haunted my being, so I suffered in silence. On top of psychosis, I didn't realize that I was dealing with major depressive disorder. a severe, debilitating condition that spawned my self-harming tendencies and loss of touch with reality. Somehow, I believed that all my pain and perceptions of the world were my fault. Maybe it was my difficulty socializing or lack of self-esteem. Maybe it was my extreme yearning to please everybody on this planet but myself. Maybe it was my father's toxic neglect for my family and I. Regardless of the reason, I continued to wonder, why was I here? And what was the point of continuing on? Asking for help was one of the hardest things I have ever had to do, but it saved my life. Someone very important to me once said, "Your mess now will become your message later." This speech here today is my message for change. In retrospect, I have learned that mental illness is not the fault of the individual. It is not a character flaw. In fact, it is most commonly related to genetic predisposition, something of which none of us can control. Fallibility is one of the most common stereotypes pertaining to mental illness. Some more stereotypes include that we are dangerous, contagious, uncommunicable, and dysfunctional. All of these statements couldn't be further from the truth. Speaking from personal experience, most of my hallucinations have not been violent. For example, people would stare at me from out my windows with binoculars, or DNA would surface from the cracks in the floor. Sometimes, silhouette figures of people I knew would dance around the room. All of these instances required no hostile reciprocation, rather fear and anxiety, rightfully so. Perhaps a more disturbing example are the voices that I hear. We get into conversations sometimes, and usually I persecute them or ignore them, given their misleading advice. It is troubling, to say the least, but they are a part of me that I am forced to accept. They are the lens that I can never take off. Continuing on, psychotic people are in fact very communicable. I, for one, love to advocate for my needs despite the major distraction in school. Last year, I left for several months to get help for my condition, but was still able to maintain good grades. I don't say this to brag. I say this to tell you that it is not impossible to maintain a successful life with a mental illness, especially if you are put on the correct medication and given the proper therapy treatment plan. So, why am I here talking to you all today? It is not for the rationale of pity, bragging, or fame. Instead, it is because I believe that sharing your unique lens will not only help alleviate the discomfort associated with mental illness, but it will also allow the encouraging of empathy, honesty, and different kaleidoscopes in this world. Unfortunately, society puts stigmatized labels on people deemed different, whether it be a disability, belief system, or divergence from the status quo. Rejection is always a thought on people's minds, especially teen minds and the minds of today's youth. I am here on a mission to change shame to pride. In middle school, I was a shy, timid, and dubious person. I would do anything to fit in. Today, I reject this philosophy wholeheartedly. This world needs diversity, not conformity. This world needs allies, not skeptics. And this world needs receptivity, not closed minds. To conclude per the words of Stephen Furtick, your perspective will either become your passport or your prison. Choose wisely. If you would like to check out my Facebook page centered on mental health awareness under Caroline Zuba, go for it, and thank you for your time tonight.